Hello. Okay, sorry about this. This is what I've seen videos and I've seen. This is more like brainwash. What is called brainwashing or brainstorming. You know. Using videos like this. This is what it is. This is what it is. It's like I know what it is. It's like this. I've seen videos with Israel and China relations. Well, let me tell you the fact about this stuff. All right. Palestine and Iran. China has paid so much deals and sent a lot of money, a lot of support with Iran, and China supports Ahmadinejad. The Iranian president, he says, okay, he's gonna, talk crap about, it might be true for a matter of fact that, if they have sent millions of dollars to Iran, China and Iran are like close together, but buddies, Why? Because they do agree with Iran, but now that the only thing to use for is that this is what it is, that Israel gotta wake up and smell the coffee, wake up so much and seek for somebody that is more pro-Israel, more than doing something great for Israel. And this is what it is. What I supposed to do is that companies, or what it is that the U.S. JAFTA, Japan and U.S. Freetrade Agreement, it has to be done with the president for creators jobs to make stuff. But now Israel, on the other hand, well, the Japanese company has to leave Japan and focus more on Israel, because I think Israel is getting all this putting themselves in the ring of fire, and they're just putting there in boiling water, because I think millions of dollars goes to Iran. China support with Iran, and China support for Palestine, and they even Palestine, China's also supporting infrastructure for Palestine and everything with Palestine, and all these nations against Israel have to do. But what it is that if one thing for sure is the use of what China's using is going to do with Israel is using Hitler. Why they're gonna put these videos of Adolf Hitler doing meetings with the Japanese, or the Japanese foreign minister or something? Why? Because that is what they want to sell to Israel. They want to sell putting Adolf Hitler and Japan relations to believe, okay, the Japanese has always supported Nazism, they always support anti-Semitism, they always support Adolf Hitler's ideals. Well, that is the only way to use of political propaganda, to put Adolf Hitler in the bunch, to say, oh look, Japan has always supported Adolf Hitler with the same ideals, boom, and then that's it. It's kind of like brainwash and tell you, guess what, I'm just here, and guess what, this guy has always slept with your wife, and he never slept with his wife, so, but that's just telling you this kind of bullshit, alright? And this is more like trying to use Adolf Hitler, more than what they trying to do is wrong, and more saying, oh yeah, I'm your buddy, but guess what, I'm backstabbing you, I'm selling you out. That's what they're trying to do, is to sell out Israel planning to, put money in Iran and investing in weapons only to attack Israel, but this is what it is. What Israel will do is free trade with Japan. Japanese companies open operations in Israel, and then that is for U.S. companies also going to Israel to give jobs in Israel. But because I think if kind of the working together, and then only U.S. companies could, only provide work for Israelis, Israeli workers, and industry of making whatever thing is, even for stuff that you buy for $1, right? Even master locks could make them in Israel instead of China. And also that only companies that could mention too, that what it is, this free trade with Israel, is that these companies, these Japanese-based companies, what we do if they make when they make a product of manufacturing a product in Israel, so the only thing is that the money will go to help between Japan and Israel set up on sending spies to China, Israeli spies to China, what China's activities is going on with Iran, or what they're planning to do between Palestine or between China and Iran, only to see what's the counterattack. What it is that they could even use the weapons. What Israel's weaponry is, infrastructure is just for defense purposes. The only defense purposes is that Japan and Israel has to agree if China is playing, if China is doing part of Iran, just to Iran telling them for China to do what they please to Iran, so it favors Japan to tell them, hey, Israel, you do your work, protect yourselves. That's it. This is what it is. Companies that will support spying, support for Israeli spies, like, for example, Toyota, Honda, Mitsubishi, Sony, Panasonic, just to name a few of the Japanese companies, will help build these facilities in Israel to help the Israelis to make products in Israel to be shipped to different places around the world, including Japan, for Israel and Japan to help spy on China what China's activities are with Iran, and that's it. That's the only purpose why that Japanese companies ordered by the Japanese government telling them to open shops in Israel, open operations to make stuff in Israel, and even for U.S. companies, but U.S. companies have nothing to do to be involved with Iran. Only the Japanese companies could pay them for spyware and everything, to let Israeli spies help out from these companies to spy on China for what China and Iran might do to help each other out. Ahmadinejad says, okay, they want to wipe Israel away from the earth, but the only reason is that if Israel and Japan do free trade agreements, manufactured stuff in Israel, flew out of China, and that's it. Because I think this is better off than be careful out there. Be careful out there. Be careful of saying, "Oh, it's because this is what it is." If China used this kind of videos with Adolf Hitler and Japan and Adolf Hitler were best friends, and they always supported each other, and tell Israel that Japan has always supported Hitler's ideals, is bullshit. Why is bullshit? Because it is just brainwashing, using Hitler as propaganda to go against Japan that has nothing to do with other things in the past. Maybe Pearl Harbor, that's nothing to do with Adolf Hitler, but this is more like, I can't tell you to do, but there's things that that I could support people. People are great, but there are only governments that make up bullshit and lies. Even the British government has made up shit. Has made up bullshit. Why? Because I think it is time to wake up and see and tell, look, we need to have this thing that China, like let's say to Japanese supporters, to the embassy, to speak out for Israel, telling you, guess what, China is a 100% supporter of Iran, is sending money to build nuclear weapons, or selling their weapons or plutonium to Iran. What Iran's wanted to do to plan to attack Israel. That's it. And that is why I'm saying that it's time. It's time for the United States to always focus on free trade with Israel and put Israel to make the $1 stuff and other stuff what China makes to Israel, and they have nothing to involve with the Israeli spying. Only the Japanese companies under the government have to be involved with Israeli spies in China to see China and Iran's activities. See you later and God bless you.